Hello, my name is Caroline, but today you're going to know me as Cleo, Muse of History. Together, we uncover the truths about legends, folklore, and myths. Starbucks is without a doubt the most popular coffee chain. Residing in 78 countries, there are few who haven't heard of Starbucks in our modern world. Many of those, though, see the Starbucks logo and comment on the famous mermaid? How surprised would you be if I actually told you she was a siren? And how curious would you be to know what a siren is and how they tragically came to be the haunting women we know today? Let's dive in, shall we? Many myths become muddled over the ages, so it's no surprise that people confuse the Starbucks logo for a mermaid. It's to no one's fault sirens are confused with mermaids. The myth has become so diluted, it's difficult to tell the difference anymore. In modern days, siren and mermaid have practically become synonymous. There are many modern takes on mermaid, yet so few on sirens specifically. But if we look at examples like Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, Lore, or Kiss of the Siren, they all, interestingly enough, use mermaid and siren almost interchangeably. Now, we'll cover mermaids in the future and why they might not be the beloved Disney princess that we all know, but we're going to remain focused today. Sirens in modern day almost appear as evil mermaids. They're half fish, half woman, luring men to their deaths with their beautiful, haunting voices, as we see in the aforementioned Pirates of the Caribbean. If we rewind all the way back to the beginning, though, we'll find sirens were quite the antithesis. If we go back to the day of Homer, 800 BCE, we'll find hailing from the island of Anthomoessa, we have two options for the sirens. They were described in some cases, and even depicted on ancient art, as giant bird creatures with the faces of beautiful women. In other cases, they seemed to be winged women with bird feet that were taloned and sometimes described with a sparrow's tail. Now, there's some belief among scholars that the siren came from the soul bird in Asia and then traveled to Greece, being incorporated into their myths. The soul bird was known as a ghost that stole the souls of the living, and the Greek could have easily translated such a story into their myths regarding the dangers of sea travel, which the sirens are often translated as. When we look at the harpy, which is another winged female creature that could be seen as a sister to the siren, many Greeks and Romans incorporated them into their writings, including Homer. It's interesting when you see the different depictions between Roman and Greek. Greeks depicted them as grotesque, while Romans depicted them as beautiful. I can't particularly say the reasons behind these. As for sirens, they appeared in art up into the Middle Ages, and as we see, they influence our art today. In mythology, sirens represent the dangers of the sea, how wily and treacherous seafaring was for sailors. Men would go missing with no reason that their families could tell. They just disappeared. Sirens are portrayed as fearsome seductresses, seen time and again throughout history. As stated by Nonnus, when a sailor hears the siren's perfidious song and bewitched by the melody, he is dragged to self-chosen fate too soon. Falling into the net of the melodious fate, he forgets to steer, quite happy. But like many women through legend, lore, and myth, they aren't quite what they seem. Were they evil by nature, intending to drag sailors down to their watery graves? These stories of old actually describe them as such temptresses, like Nonnus. What if it wasn't their design? And if it isn't bloodthirst motivating them to sing, then what? Remember that island I mentioned earlier, Anthomoessa? Yeah, they didn't live there by choice. Their history dates all the way back to Demeter and Persephone. Lore Olympus fans should know those names. But for those who are clueless, Demeter was the goddess of things such as harvest, agriculture, and fertility. Some of those might not seem like they go together, but they kind of had everything going on. Demeter gave birth to Persephone. She was the goddess of spring, an eventual queen of the underworld. I'm sure I'll cover the story of Persephone and Hades, god of the underworld, but of most told versions, there are two. One is Hades saw her, fell in love, and kidnapped her. In the underworld, Persephone's fate was sealed when he tricked her into eating the fateful pomegranate seeds. The other story is that their love was mutual and Persephone remained of her own accord. I am greatly oversimplifying things, but this isn't their video. You might be asking yourself, where do the Sirens fit into this? Well, the Sirens were originally friends of Persephone's, and when she went into the underworld, Demeter was distraught, as you might imagine being her mother. It's said that this is when the Sirens gained their wings. Demeter gave them wings to search for Persephone, and when in the end her precious daughter was unable to be retrieved, Demeter and the Muses together cursed the Sirens. They were cursed to remain forever on Anthemoessa. What about their song, though? Enticing men to their deaths is seen again and again in old literature, right? Well, let's look at the Odyssey. We know of all the sorrows in the wide land. We know all the things that come to pass on the fruitful earth. But what does that mean? Classic scholar Walter Copeland Perry observed, their song, though irresistibly sweet, was no less sad than sweet, and lacked both body and soul in a fateful lethargy, the forerunner of death and corruption. These women, cursed to remain on their island forever, were believed to still be crying out for their lost friend, calling to Persephone, begging her to return. This song, this beckoning, was enchanting to all who heard. Some scholars have implied the Sirens might have been cannibals based on Circe's description of them in the Odyssey. She said, lolling there in the meadow, round them heaps of corpses, rotting away, rags of skin shriveling on their bones. But the fact that the sailor's flesh is rotting away itself implies that it hasn't been eaten. How these bodies got there, though, is interesting. Most people believe the sailors were drowned, so how did the bodies get on the island? It's been suggested that their divine nature kept them alive, but cursed to the island, so they were unable to provide food for the visitors who did make it to the island. And these visitors remained until they starved to death. And the Sirens had to watch. But let's, for a moment, play devil's advocate. Let's suppose for a moment they aren't singing of the sorrows Homer spoke of. Let's say the Sirens were focused on the death and destruction of anything that came within earshot of their island. But let's also imagine the fury. They have been cursed for eternity, blamed for a stolen daughter that wasn't their fault. Over and over in Greek mythology, we see women punished for the sins of men. Over and over, Hera punished the many lovers of Zeus instead of Zeus himself. And here, once again, neither Hades nor Zeus, who assisted, are punished or held to account for the kidnapping of Persephone. Demeter wanted to take her wrath out on someone, and for all I can tell, the Muses wanted to have some fun. So the Sirens it was. They were Persephone's friend. They should have kept better watch. But they weren't even demigods. So if Demeter herself cannot punish Hades or Zeus, what could the Sirens have done? It would be no wonder if these women were filled with rage. So either way you believe, the Sirens were sorrow-filled or hell-bent on the destruction and drowning of sailors. There are many reasons to have brought about such a tragic outcome. What about their end, though? Well, it's just as tragic as the rest of the tale. There are some accounts that say they lived past what I'm about to tell you, but this is the most reliable end for these sorrowful, vengeful women. See, the Sirens were also called the Muses of the lower world, essentially of the human realm. For the Muses, who we will eventually cover, were demigods, who each oversaw a different form of art. As we stated earlier about Clio, she covered the preservation of history. But all of the Muses were proficient in song. Clio herself was quite proficient in the lyre. Hera, queen of the gods herself, decided to set a singing contest against the Sirens and the Muses. And who do you believe won? The cursed women or the demigods who helped curse them? Hera knew it was an unfair fight from the beginning. Hera's never been known to fight fair. After the Muses had won the singing contest, they then plucked the feathers from the Sirens' wings and made crowns out of them for themselves. In the end, the anguish was too much for the Sirens, and it was said by Stephanus Byzantium, they turned white and threw themselves into the sea at Aptera, which translates to featherless. There they formed the White Isles in the bay, called Lukai, which is now known as modern Suda. Many myths, lores, and legends, and tragically, whether you believe it true, made up, or based on something true, it all undeniably rings with truth. Truth that over so many years becomes muddled and hidden, and people would rather believe a woman spiteful and full of hate than hear the pain she's literally screaming from the cliff tops. Linguist Jane Ellen Harrison said of the Sirens in the Odyssey, "It is strange and beautiful that Homer should make the Sirens appeal to the spirit and not to the flesh. They are romantic creatures like the Sphinx with whom they have so much in common, knowing both past and future. Their song takes effect at midday in a windless calm. The end of that song is death." Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. And please leave your suggestions for what myth, legend, or lore you would like me to cover next. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.